Hello and a very good morning. It's 10 a.m. You're watching the Breakfast News on Rajya Sabha television with me, Frank Pereira. Here are the headlines. 40 injured in fresh round of violence in Kashmir Valley. Home Minister says centre will do all it can to normalise the situation. Defence Minister clarifies additional troops in Kashmir is to counter infiltrations bids across border. India keeps the pressure on Pakistan to act against terrorists, says the state cannot escape responsibility, finds support from the US. UN Security Council to begin drawing up new sanctions against North Korea after the defiant nation conducts its fifth and biggest nuclear test. World leaders unite to condemn the test. US and Russia strike Syria deal. Cessation of hostilities to begin from Monday. Syrian government to end combat missions in specified areas held by opposition. And India shines at the Paralympic Games in Rio de Janeiro. Mariyappan Thangavelu bags the gold in men's high jump. Varun Bhati bags the bronze. Our top focus on the bulletin this morning, the situation in Jammu and Kashmir. 40 people have been injured in fresh clashes on Friday in several parts of the valley, disrupting normal life for the 63rd straight day. The centre has said that it will leave no stone unturned to bring peace and normalcy in the valley. Pakistan, on its hand, has said Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif will be raising the issue of the situation in the valley at the UNGA session.
The centre has clarified that deployment of additional troops in Kashmir was aimed at foiling attempts by terrorists to enter India from across the border and that it has nothing to do with the ongoing unrest in the valley. This was stated by Defence Minister Manohar Parrikar.
Army is involved on the border sealing and counter-insurgency grid. We are strengthening that grid, ensuring that the attempted infiltration attempts are foiled.
The centre also making it clear it will leave no stone unturned to restore peace and normalcy in the state. Home Minister Rajnath Singh stating it was difficult for people to bear the unrest for long.
गवर्नमेंट भी अपने स्तर पर वहाँ के हालात में सुधार लाने की कोशिश कर रही है. लोगों के साथ बातचीत का सिलसिला भी चल रहा है. ऑल पार्टी डेलीगेशन जाने के बाद भी मैं समझता हूँ कि परसेप्शनल चेंज आया है लोगों में वहाँ पर. और कश्मीर के रहने वाले लोग भी माने एक लंबे समय तक अनरेस्ट को झेलना किसी भी पॉपुलेशन के लिए एक बहुत ये कठिन काम है.
At least 40 people, including security personnel, were injured in clashes at several places in Kashmir on Friday, despite curfew being reimposed in many parts of the valley. Normal life remained paralyzed for the 63rd consecutive day due to the separatist-sponsored strike. The centre reiterating that they will engage with the youth in the state as soon as the situation in the state normalizes.
हिंसा के साथ कोई समझौता नहीं हो सकता. हिंसा करने का लक्ष्य कोई भी हो, हिंसा हिंसा है और हिंसा को समाप्त करना है. सभ्य समाज में उसका कोई स्थान नहीं. और मैं समझता हूं कि सारे राजनीतिक दल भी इस बात से सहमत हैं, मुत्फिक हैं. दूसरा ये कि जैसे जैसे परिस्थितियां सामान्य हो, प्रदेश के युवाओं को एंगेज करने की आवश्यकता है.
The centre also justifying the security extended to separatists, saying they face threat from Pakistan. The government coming in for criticism from MPs of the all-party delegation that visited Kashmir. CPIM's Sitaram Yechury saying the team failed to achieve more during the visit since they had done inadequate homework. Meanwhile, Pakistan has said Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif will raise the issue of the Kashmir situation at the upcoming United Nations General Assembly session. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, India and the US continue to step up pressure on Pakistan to act against terrorists acting from its soil, hinting that it cannot wish away its responsibility. Both India and the US urged Pakistan to continuously work towards wiping out terrorism.
India continues to keep up the pressure on Pakistan over its support to terrorism. Foreign Secretary S. Jaishankar once again shot down Islamabad's defense of terrorists being non-state actors, saying the state cannot escape responsibility for the acts of terror emanating from its soil.
There is a disconnect between state actor and non-state actor, which is why we use the word it's sponsored. The state cannot escape responsibility by saying it's non-state. After all, and this is just not vis-a-vis India. I mean, this was the situation even after 9/11. After 9/11, countries were told that you can't protect people and say, well, this is not the government doing it.
The views have been echoed by the US, which said that Pakistan must continuously work towards wiping out terrorism, saying it cannot pick and choose terrorists it wants to act against.
Our discussions continue to focus on the fact that we're urging the government of Pakistan to take concerted action against safe havens and terrorist groups that threaten other countries in the region. And we've been very clear about that. And we have seen them attempt to address it. We want to see more action taken, but, it continues to be a topic of conversation with them.
This is the third time in a week that India and the US have spoken in one voice on the issue of terrorism. Prime Minister Narendra Modi had made statements on this during his visits to the G20 summit in China and the ASEAN summit in Laos. With inputs from Akhilesh Suman, Bureau Report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, 3 days after the Supreme Court directed Karnataka to release 15,000 cusecs of Kaveri river water to Tamil Nadu, almost the entire state was forced to shut down on Friday following a bandh call by pro-Kannada activists. They are demanding immediate reversal of the apex court order which came on Monday. Chief Minister Siddaramaiah has now sought the Prime Minister's intervention to end the impasse.
A dawn to dusk bandh brought almost the entire state of Karnataka to a standstill on Friday. Pro-Kannada activists held protest marches and demonstrations across different districts against the Supreme Court's decision to release Kaveri water to Tamil Nadu.
केंद्र सरकार और सुप्रीम कोर्ट जो इधर कर्नाटक की सरकार है जब भी देखा गया तो कर्नाटक फार्मर को जब भी अन्याय करते आ रहा है इस तरीके से हम लोगों ने आज पूरा दिन कर्नाटक बंद कर रहे फिर पानी छोड़ने का रुकेगा तो अच्छी बात है नहीं तो हम लोग हड़ताल और कंटिन्यू करेंगे
10 ವರ್ಷ ಅವರು ಬಂದೋಗಿಲ್ಲ ಆ ಕೋಪಕ್ಕೆ ಹಾಕಿ ಅನ್ಯಾಯವಾಗಿ ಹುರಿಸಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ಕನ್ನಡಿಗರ ಹಕ್ಕನ್ನ ಕಿತ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ಕಾವೇರಿಯ ನೀರಿನ ಪರವಾಗಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಮುಂದೆ ರಿವೆಂಜ್ ತಗೋತಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಆದ್ರೆ ಅವರಿಗಿರೋ ಅಂತ ಹಕ್ಕೆ ನಮಗೂ ಇದೆ.
In capital Bengaluru, normal life was completely thrown out of gear. All schools, colleges and businesses remained closed. Transport services were severely hit as state-run buses stayed off roads, even as auto rickshaw and cab unions lent their support to the bandh. Metro services in the IT hub were also halted. Elaborate security arrangements were made to prevent any untoward incident as well as damage to public property.
To ensure that nothing untoward takes place in the procession, we have made elaborate police arrangements. Armed police has been put and as well as central police has been deployed for this procession.
The bandh found support in many parts of the state. In Mandya, the epicenter of the Kaveri protests, agitators once again blocked the Bengaluru-Mysuru highway. Opposition parties BJP and JDS also lent their support to the bandh, accusing the government of not doing enough for its own farmers.
He is not bothered about what are the problem faced by Karnataka farmers or any individuals. He is not bothered about. He is simply wasting his time. He wanted to complete as a chief minister for 5 years without doing anything to the Karnataka.
In the all-party meeting also, we suggested that immediately approach the Supreme Court, immediately file review petition or remodification petition before the Supreme Court and elicit all the status of the water problem of the Karnataka Kaveri Basin. Here, if you see the order of the Supreme Court, there is no mention serious situation of the Karnataka.
Chief Minister Siddaramaiah appealed to the people to maintain peace and calm while stating that his government was filing a review petition in the apex court.
This has been happened earlier also, but this year also, this time also we have complied with the orders and we are filing a petition on Monday most likely for modification of the order.
The multiple protests started on Monday when the Supreme Court directed Karnataka to release 15,000 cusecs of Kaveri water to Tamil Nadu for 10 days to address the plight of farmers there. The state government's compliance to the order further snowballed the protests. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Meanwhile, in neighbouring Andhra Pradesh, the YSR Congress and the left parties have called for a state bandh today in protest against the denial of special category status to Andhra Pradesh. They blamed Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Union Minister for INB Venkaiah Naidu and Chief Minister N. Chandrababu Naidu for the alleged injustice done and demanded that all the promises made at the time of bifurcation be implemented in letter and spirit. Protests were also organized separately by the YSRC and the Samiti in Guntur, Eluru, Anantapuram, Srikalahasti, Srikakulam, Ungol and Kadapa. The protesters denounced Jaitley's claim that granting special status to Andhra Pradesh was not possible because of the recommendations of the 14th Finance Commission. Earlier, Andhra Pradesh BJP leaders met Finance Minister Arun Jaitley to discuss the issue. Jaitley defended the union government's decision to give financial aid to the state instead of special status.
Of course, there is jubilation in the state BJP because for the first time in history, any state in the country has got such a large assistance from the central government. And in spirit, we have supported every commitment which was made to the state of Andhra Pradesh. And if all the assistance which we are going to give is implemented, I'm sure there is a great future in the development of Andhra Pradesh which is going to take place.
Financially, we are having a problem. For the last 2.5 years, we are suffering. Our income is less compared to our expenditure. In South India, we are very, I can say, per capita income-wise, even wealth creation, even revenue generation for the governments is the lowest. Taking into consideration all these things, I am requesting Government of India from the beginning. One is Bifurcation Act provision and also promises made by the then Prime Minister on the floor of the Rajya Sabha.
Our stand is very clear that we want special status. From the beginning, YSR Congress Party, our leader Jagan Mohan Reddy Garu is telling that we want special status for Andhra Pradesh because special status is our right.
Well, Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi, who is currently on a visit to poll-bound Uttar Pradesh, will travel 183 kilometers on the fifth day of his Kisan Mahayatra today. He will cover Ambedkar Nagar, Jaunpur and Azamgarh districts of the state. Earlier, he reached Ayodhya and Faizabad on the fourth day of his Kisan Yatra. He visited the Hanumangari temple and the Kichocha Dargah. This was the first visit to Ayodhya by any member of the Gandhi family after the demolition of the Babri Masjid in 1992. Rahul's Yatra will take a 2-day break next week on account of Eid. He continued his attack on the Modi government on the issue of farmers, while the BJP slammed Rahul Gandhi over the visit to Ayodhya and Faizabad and termed it as a political stunt.
नरेगा चलाने में तकरीबन 35,000 करोड़ साल के लगते थे। नरेगा से लाखों लोगों का फायदा होता है। नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने 3 नरेगा का पैसा, 3 साल का नरेगा का पैसा कर्जा माफ किया है, मगर वो किसान का नहीं है, वो मजदूर का नहीं है, वो गरीब का नहीं है, वो हिंदुस्तान के सबसे बड़े 10 उद्योगपतियों का है, जिसके पास हजारों करोड़ रुपए हैं, उसका उन्होंने 1,10,000 करोड़ कर्जा माफ किया है।
जमीन अपनी पैर के नीचे से फिसलती हुई दिखाई देती है, तब हर एक को भगवान की याद आती है। पूरी तरह उनकी जो राजनीतिक जो दौरा है, एक बहुत बड़ी एक फेल्यूर के रूप में साबित हुआ है, एक मजाक के रूप में लोग इसको देख रहे हैं।
Well, any Indian can now nominate achievers for the prestigious Padma Award. So, the first time the Government of India has thrown open the nomination process to the general public. The step was taken in order to make the awards transparent and curb the crony culture of influence and lobbying. The nominations can be made online, but the nominators would be required to furnish their Aadhaar details for authenticity and accountability. The government has already received over 1,700 nominations. The last date of nomination is September 15th. In other news now, controversial preacher Zakir Naik's NGO Islamic Research Foundation has been banned from receiving foreign funds directly. The Home Ministry has asked the RBI to seek prior permission from it before releasing any money to the NGO. The decision has been taken after a preliminary inquiry conducted by the Home Ministry found that the NGO was carrying out activities contrary to the Foreign Contribution Act, under which it has to function. PTI is quoting sources as saying that with the NGO being put into prior permission category, the Reserve Bank of India henceforth has to inform the Home Ministry about all funds coming to the NGO, and permission has to be taken from the ministry before releasing them. Nayak has come under the scanner of the security agencies after a Bangladeshi newspaper reported that one of the attackers of the July 1st terror strike in Dhaka was inspired by Nayak. Well, it's time for a short break now, but news and updates will continue on this side. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
The achievement of a Nobel Prize in Medicine by China is the result of the integration of the traditional medicine in main healthcare system, and I think we lagged in it. Whatever you are getting from the laboratory investigation and then you are translating into the healthcare, that is yukti. If a Vaidya is blessed by this sense of yukti, he can never fail.
Watch Eureka with Professor Kartar Singh Dhiman, Director General, Central Council for Research in Ayurvedic Sciences, only on Rajya Sabha TV.
Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha television. Well, the United Nations Security Council is drawing up fresh sanctions against North Korea following its fifth and biggest nuclear test to date on Friday. The decision was taken out at an urgent meeting of the 15-member council. The US has also said that North Korea's defiance will be met with appropriate response. World leaders have condemned the move, calling it self-destructive.
This launch,
the United Nations Security Council has agreed to begin drawing up new sanctions against North Korea after the reclusive East Asian nation conducted its fifth and reportedly biggest nuclear test.
This launch, which I would note took place while China was hosting the G20 summit, once again shows the DPRK's blatant disregard for its international obligations and its willingness to provoke and to threaten the international community with impunity. The Security Council must remain unequivocal and united in condemnation of these tests, and we must take action to enforce the words we put on paper, to enforce our resolution.
For myself and for my country, condemn the fact that it was a launch that is of great concern to the national security of Japan, but not just for Japan, but for the region and beyond.
The fact that the North Korean regime is using the considerable amount of their national resources to the development of weapons of mass destruction will sacrifice the living condition and the basic need and humanitarian situation of North Korean people.
The decision was taken at an urgent meeting of the 15-member council on Friday after United Nations Secretary General called on the UN Security Council to take appropriate action against North Korea.
The underground nuclear test by the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. This is yet another brazen breach of the resolutions of the Security Council. For the fifth time in recent years, the DPRK alone has broken the international norm against a nuclear test. This unacceptable act endangers peace and security in the region.
In a continued show of defiance to UN sanctions and the international community at large, North Korea conducted its fifth nuclear test on its 68th founding day on Friday. The test set off a blast that was more powerful than the bomb dropped on Hiroshima.
5.04란 규모는 4차는 4.8 정도 됩니다. 그래서 그 강도를 보면 약 2배 크기 에너지 4차보다 그 정도 에너지를 크기를 갖고 있습니다. 그렇게 보면 그 히로시마 원폭보다는 약간 규모가 적은.
World leaders were quick to condemn the latest test. South Korean president said the North Korean leader was showing maniacal recklessness. India deplored the test and asked DPRK to refrain from such actions that adversely impact peace and stability in the region and beyond. US President Barack Obama warned the test would be met with serious consequences. North Korea's main ally China too was quick to condemn the test.
South Korea particularly are deeply concerned because of the neighborhood, but I think it's fair to say that China, Russia, the United States, everybody shares concern.
We're very much concerned, and the resolutions of the Security Council must be implemented, and we will send this message very strongly.
북한이 또다시 자행한 핵실험에 대해 절대 용납하지 않을 것이며 이 보안대로 북한이 핵을 포기하도록 가용한 모든 조치를 취할 것입니다.
朝方不顾国际社会普遍反对进行第5次核试验，中国外交部已就此发表声明，表明了中国政府坚决反对的立场。
North Korea says the test proves it is capable of mounting a nuclear warhead on a medium-range ballistic missile. However, its claims of being able to miniaturize a nuclear warhead have never been independently verified. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, the US and Russia have arrived at a ceasefire deal for Syria after a marathon talk session held in Geneva. The cessation of hostilities will come into effect after sunset on Monday. US Secretary of State John Kerry said that the plans will bear fruit if the Syrian regime and the opposition meet their obligations.
Today, the United States and Russia are announcing a plan which we hope will reduce violence, ease suffering, and resume movement towards a negotiated peace and a political transition in Syria.
The US and Russia announcing an agreement on Syria starting with cessation of hostilities. The agreement will be in effect from sunset on Monday. The announcement coming after talks between US Secretary of State John Kerry and his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov in Geneva.
And today, Sergei Lavrov and I, on behalf of our presidents and our countries, call on every Syrian stakeholder to support the plan that the United States and Russia have reached, to back its implementation in good faith, and to continue the hard work of bringing this catastrophic conflict to the quickest possible end through a political process.
Part of the peace plan includes Syrian government ending combat missions in specified areas held by the opposition.
Halting all of the regime's military air activities in key areas that are defined. Not all flights, because there's still Nusra and ISIL, but that will be managed in a different way also. And that should put an end to the barrel bombs, an end to the indiscriminate bombing of the civilian neighborhoods, and it has the potential to change the nature of the conflict.
Russia and the US will also establish a joint center to combat so-called Islamic State and al-Qaeda.
Then US and Russian experts will work together to defeat Daesh and Nusra. I want to emphasize, these measures can only be implemented effectively if all the parties live up to their obligations.
Kerry has said that the opposition in Syria has indicated it is prepared to comply with the plan, but that they have to meet their obligations.
Now, of course, the opposition will also be expected to adhere to the cessation of hostilities. And that is why today the United States and Russia together are calling on all sides to recommit to a nationwide cessation of hostilities and to honor its previous terms. This will be effective at sundown on September 12th.
While the ceasefire is to cover all of Syria, both US and Russia emphasized the initial importance of allowing humanitarian convoys to reach Aleppo, where hundreds of thousands are without food, water, and electricity. The Syrian army on Friday secured a road into the government-held side of Aleppo that was captured by rebels last month and was expected to open it soon for civilians. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, in more international news now, at least 10 people were killed in twin bomb blasts in central Baghdad. 10 people were killed and around 28 injured when a car packed with explosives went off in front of a shopping mall in central Baghdad on Friday. One explosion came from a parked car and the other was caused by an explosives-laden vehicle driven by a suicide bomber outside the mall. No casualties were reported inside the mall. There was no immediate claim of responsibility for the blasts. Moving on to some sports news now, and there was a proud moment for India at the ongoing Paralympics. Mariyappan Thangavelu has won the gold in the men's high jump, while Varun Bhati has bagged bronze in the men's high jump. Thangavelu won the gold medal thanks to his best jump of 1.89 meters, while Bharti registered a best of 1.86 meters. Silver went to USA's Sam Grew, who also registered the same mark of 1.86 meters. However, Sharad Kumar couldn't finish on the podium along with his fellow teammates. The games are on at Rio de Janeiro. And now news from the US Open. Novak Djokovic won his semi-final match and went through to the finals of the tournament and continues his reign as world number one. Defending champion Djokovic defeated Gael Monfils to reach the 7th US Open final of his career. Beat Monfils 6-3, 6-2, 3-6, 6-2. The world number one will now face Stan Wawrinka in Sunday's final, where he will make a bid to win a third major of 2016 and 13th of his career. In the second semi-final between Stan Wawrinka and Kei Nishikori, down a set and a break, the third-seeded Wawrinka took control to oust Nishikori 4-6, 7-5, 6-4, 6-2. He'll seek his third major championship on Sunday against the top-ranked Djokovic, who he defeated at Roland Garros in 2015. Meanwhile, the women's final will be played later today between new world number one Germany's Angelique Kerber and Czech Karolina Pliskova. Well, that's it on this edition of the Breakfast News. Have a good day.